Speaking moistly.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our usual Tuesday afternoon edition of Speaking Moistly. With me, as usual, Greg. How are you doing today, sir?
Yo, 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 what's going on? Speaking moistly fam. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. How's it going? Mark, how you been?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I just felt like I was back in the late 90s there, listening to like
Mm.
hip hop radio.
Yeah, what's going on, guys? You're listening to the Speaking Moistly
That's
jams.
right. Smooth jams. So there's still there's lots of political stuff going on. And you and I were talking in the green room about like how much of a difference does this really make? How much we're like, doing our best. And are we making a difference? And does doing stuff like this, posting, great videos, amazing content every week,
Amazing.
does doing that stuff like this help anything? And from your perspective, my perspective, well, I don't think you can do it for that reason. I think it's like weight loss. If you do it to lose weight and you're successful a little bit, you stop, right? So you can't do it for I want to make a difference. You have to find your reason to do it, and it's not like I want to. The end goal can't be I want to make a difference. You've got to have another reason to do it. So
So
that's the way I look at that's the way
and
I look at things.
and what is the positive end goal in the weight loss example?
What do you mean the positive end goal in the weight loss?
Well, you were saying that the end goal for weight loss should not be losing weight.
No, it should be so like
It should be
if
what?
Well, if your end goal for weight loss is losing weight, then when you get back to a comfortable weight for yourself, like a lot of times what happens, I used to be bigger than I am. So a lot of times what happens is you get to a point where you see like a number or pants that used to fit don't fit anymore. And that scares you, right? You're like, oh no, I've lost control. I'm eating too much and I'm gaining weight again. Like, oh no.
Sure.
And so you use that motivation to lose weight and you're like, it's just like the alcoholic who drinks too much. And then so you say, I'm never going to do this again. Right. And then you get down to a weight where you feel comfortable, where your pants fit again, let's say. And so your goal of losing weight is satisfied, but you haven't lost the weight that you want. Right. But you're now the motivation that you use to galvanize you to get that first little bit of weight lost, which isn't that difficult, but it is difficult when you don't know what you're doing. Is now evaporated because you've succeeded in that goal. The successful mindset for weight loss is I want to meet my goal today. That's a success. I want to hit my calorie goal within 50 to 100 calories today.
Okay.
That's a successful mindset for weight loss. And I think that's a successful mindset for creating things as well. Like not that you should have a list of things that you want to create, but like I have time set aside for output. Like I have time set aside to create something. I have time set aside to make sure that like I can put together something that I think is a reasonable story or whatever. And then I put it out and then I can move on to the next thing. I've done that thing. The little widget in my mind is like moved over. I also do that with French lessons. Like I'm not going to learn French today, but I'm going to do a little tiny little bit. And like this week, it's tiny little bit. So that's how I look at it.
So I like that perspective. That's very similar to I'm part of a 12-step program for drugs and alcohol, and that's the kind of the exact same perspective, which is just for today. It's like you're not going to quit something forever. That's kind of a way too big of a promise. That's way too big of a commitment to make.
You can't.
Yeah, you can't.
Weight loss is similar. Like so I look at it as well, like through, and it's just a mentality about addressing something that
we're doing a self-help podcast now, by the way. We're not
right, but it seems
doing
like
about Canadian
when you're demoralized, right? Like you think that you're not powerful, but it's you eat an elephant one bite at a time, right? You climb the mountain one step at a time. And if you looked at to the top of the mountain, it would overwhelm you. If you think, oh my gosh, I'm all the way down here and I could never get up there, never make a difference the way I want to make a difference. I'm always going to look this way, right? No, not true. But the secret is in taking that step every day.
Okay, so I'm curious though, because you were saying that when you're for weight loss, because I like that as an analogy. You might be motivated initially by getting to a certain size of your waist or a certain weight. But you're saying that you shouldn't do that. You should focus on the everyday thing.
Yes.
But even if you do, get into the shape that you want to get into, then what does it become? It's just kind of focusing on the everyday of focusing on eating healthy.
Not necessarily healthy, but yeah, like you can eat the right amount of calories and still be unhealthy, right? what happens after you're successful and you're at your goal weight and weight loss is that you learn how to negotiate with yourself without having to enter the calories. It took me 5 years of entering calories in my fitness pal is what I used, um, to to understand how to properly set how much I was eating. But
Hmm.
in doing that, in the act of concentrating on day to day, you build a new habit. So like previously when I was overweight, I didn't understand, and really honestly, I didn't understand how food and overeating impacted my inability to lose weight. Eating too many calories was fundamentally my problem. And I knew that, but I didn't know how to meaningfully reduce the calories in a consistent way to achieve the weight loss goals. And by the time I learned how using the app and calorie counting, at the end of that, it transitioned into me being able to manage that in a way that was, I didn't need the app anymore because the habit itself had changed. And I also eat the same thing most days. Like my before bed snack is the same snack I've had for years now. Lunch is like one of 3 or 4 different foods. And I mean, like, I know how many calories I'm aiming for around lunchtime, right? So it's like 700 or something like that, all in. And so um, I can do that on the fly by myself without the aid of an app. But that took a long time. And I just looked down at my feet and took one step at a time, forgetting about how big it was until it was no longer big, if that makes sense.
That
Maybe
does
that's
make sense. That does make sense. No, that is a good perspective. Um, Focusing on what you can do today. Absolutely. I think in terms of like moving the needle, um, I mean, I've certainly seen, or it it's hard to, the trouble is it's hard to see the actual success, right? Like it's hard to see the actual success when it comes to what we're doing.
yeah.
The most feedback that I've gotten was at the trucker convoy,
Yeah.
where people have come up to me and said, "Hey, your videos, loved your videos. Hey, I've shared them with people," or "Hey, people I know have found your videos and, like, gained perspective or whatever." And that
People
it's
come
a
up to me and say, "You're Greg's friend," and I'm like, "I am," and they're like, "Tell
yeah,
him I
yeah,
said
yeah.
hi." No, for
But
real. I mean, like I'm saying that tongue in cheek, but that has happened to me, and like I think that's super cool. But it is, I totally agree with you. It is really hard,
mhm,
especially in the Trudeau's Canada and Trudeau's internet, to understand what kind of impact you're having. Like I have about 4,000 daily viewers. I don't know what kind of like audience you have to have on YouTube to have 4,000 daily viewers, but like across all the platforms, that's about what my number is.
mhm, that's a
And I think,
lot.
yeah, that's pretty like, okay, like that's pretty good. I'm sure that there's, there are people who would really be jealous of that number. And I'm like, I don't know.
CBC is jealous of that number.
Yeah, right. But I don't know how to meaningfully uh, meaningfully get feedback. Like it used to be relatively easy because the YouTube comments were kind of a good bellwether, and like YouTube likes were a good bellwether of like, am I putting together something that's interesting, that's moving the needle, as you say, right? Because like my goal every
Mhm,
day is just to put together a coherent story because I'm trying to make sense of everything too.
yeah.
um
I s-
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, something that I'm just growing so frustrated with is this sort of uh like ever since the trucker convoy, especially, I just feel like the mask has come off of, the Canadian establishment and like this liberal government.
Like they're not hiding
And
it anymore.
yeah, they're not hiding it anymore. And I guess ever since then, I've just been really frustrated with this sort of still perceived like naivete, this still kind of perceived like still giving them the benefit of the doubt, still giving them this sort of impression of like, oh, well, I'm sure the legislation that they're drafting is going to be fair, or that it's, I'm sure there's good intentions behind it. Like there's still obviously the news media the news media establishment is still, propping them up and kind of thinking the best of what they might be doing. But I guess it's when everybody else, including the Conservative Party, is still kind of participating in this, with this sort of like acting as if, I don't know, acting as if it's not like way worse than it is. Like, am I making sense here?
Yeah. So, well, nobody wins if people panic. Nobody at all, right? And the I've said this before. Our food and transport system has a lot of built-in ability to deal with a shock, right? But there have been
Okay.
lots and lots of shocks over the last year,
Mhm.
let's just say, and we're
Sure.
seeing the impact of that on our supply chains and pricing and inflation. And at the same time, we're seeing the results of the quantitative easing, the money printing that Trudeau was doing through the pandemic with the excuse of the pandemic. And the reason that you're not seeing panic is because they all like the people in largely a lot of the people who are in the House of Commons right now all voted for this stuff. This was the solution. So if you see them going, oh my God, like hair on fire, it's the worst. We're heading for a Great Depression-esque crash, type deal. Um, that doesn't help. I mean, it certainly doesn't help them because they're the reason we are, right? It's bad policy. And panicking the
It's
public,
bad optics. Like it makes
yeah,
them look bad.
panicking the public makes the liberals lose control. So what do? They focus exclusively on race, gender, ideology, guns, right? And don't touch anything with a 10-foot pole that has anything to do with reality, right? And so it's a distractionary tactic, in my opinion. It doesn't change anything, but they're not going to change anything anyway, so might as well not talk about it and panic people. I'm not disagreeing with you that um, things certainly look bad. Like it certainly looks like every other day I wake up and there's a new chicken hatchery, egg farm,
Fire. Yeah.
yeah, like some kind of food processing plant, something or other. I don't like the idea of somebody coordinating an attack on this food supply chain in the West. That doesn't seem very good, but it doesn't seem unlikely in light of all the things that are happening. So like I said, there's so many problems, there's so many shocks. At some point, things are going to well, not come to a head. I think we're seeing that, like the inflationary things, the lack or less selection on the shelves. And is that going to get better or worse as time moves forward? Right. Like I bet worse because it doesn't look like things are winding down worldwide at this point in time. But I don't know,
Hmm.
and
Well, maybe another way to look at it, it's maybe it's like it seems as though the main function of the news media and the political establishment now, especially the Conservative Party, is to kind of communicate this message of like everything is under control and
Mhm.
everything is fine and everything is going, we are in charge, we know what we're doing, and we're a free country still, trust us, don't believe the misinformation you see online. And it just
just
seems
I
very it's all about complacency, keeping people complacent and complicit with what's going
yes,
on.
the
And
I just want to jump in if I
sure,
can.
go ahead, go
The
ahead.
trust us idea, the government is very, very concerned that the public trust them. They've got the Supreme Court Justice lead out there talking about a new education campaign for the Supreme Court justices, and they're doing a QA session in Quebec. And the Emergencies Act inquiry is talking about exactly the same language. And I just like trust us, right? Basically, we're not going to give you anything. We're not going to give you any reason to trust us, but trust us. And then the article, the New York, not New York Times, the National Post was talking about how like just trust us is not good enough for the Emergencies Act. Like this is the war. You declared war, like War Measures Act on our own
Mhm.
citizens, on the truckers who, what were they doing? Like you need to explain this. And they're saying trust us. And they're saying National Post at least is saying it's not good enough. And so I think I just wanted to say like how interesting that echo is for me. Sorry.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I guess a big part of my frustration is I feel like there's the people that get it and who are at the trucker convoy and see that the mask has fallen off, and there's a
Mhm.
lot of urgency. And I wouldn't necessarily call it panic. I would say there's a lot of valid concern that's like, it's hard to see anything that Trudeau says or Jagmeet says or whoever says and really want to trust it, right?
Mhm.
And I suppose it's just frustrating because um I see different pundits and I see different people, and they're trying to still stay buddy buddy with the establishment, and they're kind of acting like everything is fine, or like that the emperor still has clothes on. And a recent example is JJ McCullough makes great content. He actually was invited to the House of Commons, not the House of Commons, but for a parliamentary committee. Yeah, to talk about you saw this bill C11, which is like it's a internet censorship bill.
Our invitation got lost in the mail.
Yeah, no, well, he did a great job there. But in his kind of analysis video of visiting there, he kind of like his perspective is kind of what I'm talking about that I find frustrating, or at least like near the end of his.
He's like Rachel Maddow.
He's not that bad. He's not like Rachel Maddow. That's a little far. That's a little far.
But he's establishment media. He works for Washington Post, right?
He does work for Washington Post.
He's like Rachel.
But just to drive the point home, though, at the end of the video, he essentially says, yeah, you know what? The whole process was very cynical. It's like, yeah, you don't say, like, yeah, hello, of course it is. Why are we all pretending like these people are not crooks? I guess that's what it comes down to. It's like, why are we acting like these people aren't crooks?
Do you remember 2019? Like, did you ran in the 2019 election with me, right? And
hell yeah,
in the 2019 election, if you said, I'm pretty sure there's something funky with Dominion, and I feel like, destroying all those ballots the night of the leadership election kind of maybe, was maybe the wrong thing to do. And people would be like, are you saying that there's something, wrong with the leadership, there's something untoward with the leadership race?
Yes,
right.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, because that's right. Because if you said yes, they would be like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's well, I mean, you heard, maybe you didn't, who James, I believe his name is James Top. You know who James Top is?
Yeah, of course.
So he's marching into Ottawa this week, and Mr. Polyev won't meet with them. They said no, right? They said
he's going to get there. He's getting there this week.
No, not this week. Sorry, excuse me. June 30th. June 30th. Sorry.
Okay.
June 30th.
Yeah.
So, but he was meeting with all sorts of MPs, and somebody was asking him, Theo Fleury was interviewing, I saw this morning, asking him, is Pierre Poilievre one of the people who you're meeting with? And he said, no, I'm not. No, Mr. Poilievre is not one of them. We heard from the Poilievre team, and they said, no, they would meet with him. So it's
small PP, tiny PP.
Well, I don't want to make it all about Mr. Poilievre. I was just trying to, they're all.
I do. He's bad. Small PP is bad. Do not trust this PP. Okay. Don't do it.
The whole thing is more broken. You can only eat an elephant one bite at a time. Doesn't matter how big the elephant, right? The whole thing is more broken than.
Here's the thing, Mark. I hear what you're saying. Saying. Okay, I understand why people have faith in PP, but
no. Well, not necessarily.
That's what you said last time we chatted. We had this conversation about why you understand people.
I do understand people. I'm saying, like, being frustrated with them is not going to change how they behave. You know what I mean? Like, being angry with them, I don't think is going to, because they're not going to understand they're not going to hear the argument. If
people like you and me are not, do not voice our criticisms and our distrust with small PP, then who is?
Well, true. But the media comes up with, see, I don't know what I don't know.
We need to push the Overton window to the right, Mark. Push it with me. Come on.
Right.
Push.
But
is it this way?
Okay. But listen, just like if you come to somebody who's not ready to hear the conspiracy of the destroyed conservative leadership ballots and tell them, listen, your leadership race is garbage. Somebody who believes in the system is going to have a hard time hearing the argument, you shouldn't support anybody, et cetera, et cetera. So, and they'll just dismiss it. You know what I'm saying? And so when and it's part of the reason that we were talking about earlier, like, if the conservatives come out and start saying things that they know the liberals will then weaponize and exploit, like, did you hear this person, or Warren Kinsella, or anybody, like, did you hear what they said about immigration? If you start talking about the realities of immigration, Guelph has so much growth, mandated growth, because of our immigration policies, that we are running out of water. By 2051, we don't have enough water for the citizens that are planned to be here. Does this make sense? Like, it seems crazy, but no, like, we're supposed to just deal with that and like not have any kind of say in that. We just have to deal with that, right?
So I've said this many times before. If anybody wants to defeat globalism in Canada, you can't be afraid of the media.
No, you afraid of the
right?
media, but you
So
have a plan. You have to have a plan. Like
sure.
we don't have a like so we don't have a plan. If somebody gets traction, if somebody gets popular, if somebody gets to the point where they're saying things that they don't like, they have a very clear and easy strategy. They do what they did to Maxime Bernier. They do what they did to Faith Goldie. They do what they did to me. They do what they did to, I don't know. There are other people out there. I think
Jeremy McKenzie.
Jeremy McKenzie. Yeah, they've got a. They don't even need the social credit score. I can't get a response from the public health um, board. I can't get a response. The Upper Grand District School Board. Did I tell you about this? The Upper Grand District School Board messaged me privately, like on their Twitter account, and they said your conversation with somebody else on Twitter violates the Upper Grand District School Board's social media policy. And I was like, wait, what? Like, can you like what? How does that work? I at replied them because they were people who like I was like the Upper Grand District
Did
School
you
Board
explain to them that their policy applies to their social media account and not my
and
social
not
media account?
mine. Yeah, right. I was like, I don't even work for you. What are you talking about?
That's
They were
wild.
like, Mark, they tried to bully me. They tried to bully me into silence. I was like, are you kidding me? So then I called the director. I said, who do I get in touch with to complain about this insane idea that you can somehow police my speech on Twitter?
Mhm.
And they said, we have a social concerns policy. So I opened up the social concerns policy. The social concerns policy says the director of education is responsible for maintaining open communication and blah, 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 blah. And I was like, your policy is BS because I know you don't abide by it. And I was like, but I'm going to try. So I emailed the director of education and I said, here's the conversation that your Twitter account engaged in with me to try and bully me to stop talking. I'd love to come and chat with you about and help. Have you understand? Have you explained to me and help me understand how your social media policy applies at all to a conversation I was having with somebody else about you? And the crux of it was about defunding police, which they did last year during the defund police craze. But then there was a policy, there was a report out of Edmonton saying having police in classroom was better and students appreciated it and it helped build bridges between, like it demystified the police and did all sorts of stuff. And I was like, yeah, these idiot communists, meaning the people who are removing police from school boards across, not meaning the Upper Grand Board, need to be removed from power. And I haven't heard back.
Mm. What do you know?
Just not surprising.
Well, I mean, I would make the argument that getting canceled is the beginning in
Yes,
many cases, right? Like
I
it's the
agree with you.
beginning of the fight, because it's I feel like why it's so frustrating and treacherous to live in Canada right now is there it's almost like we're in our infancy in terms of actually opposing the establishment in a significant way.
Mhm.
Like it feels like it's so controlled. It feels like our politics is so controlled. Our media is so controlled. And a good example of this is actually something that Tyler Russell from Canada First pointed out. Do you remember Pebblegate, where somebody threw a
Yeah,
handful of rocks at the prime minister?
yeah.
That was a huge story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like they were freaking out because somebody like tossed some like pebbles at the prime minister, and like this was like the biggest story of on the planet
because
at the time.
they
And
were
it's
trying
like
to vilify Tyler, right?
right,
They tried to
but
use that to.
of course, but it just goes to show when one Canadian or whoever throws a few rocks, it's like oh my god,
You better watch out.
yeah, it's in another example is the thing that happened with Jagmeet Singh when a bunch of people were angry yelling at him.
Yeah, and
They
he says the real problem is white supremacy.
yeah, and they're trying so hard to to try to get us in line, and that's why they had to call the Emergencies Act on the whole trucker thing, because it's like, whoa, they really put together a really effective protest here. It's an emergency.
Yeah.
But I guess getting canceled or getting smeared in the media,
Check.
right, but I would argue that was when Max started to grow, like Max Bernier started to grow. That's when that's when Trump started to really take off.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And,
The media is
it's
paying
almost
attention.
like the worst thing you can do is like stop. When the canceling begins, is the worst thing you can do is stop. That being said, with the Faith Goldie example, I'm pretty sure she got kind of like rinsed. What you need to look out for is like getting rinsed in the legal system. And
Yep.
if they can like get you caught up in legal battles, then like that's a lot more difficult.
Yeah.
But
Well, and then it takes up all your resources, and then family don't
right.
support you, right? Like, because
Yeah, yeah,
you've
yeah.
said something that has gone to this point, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
like that's all real, and that happens, you know. And like, there's not that you can't do anything to fight against it. I mean, you certainly can, but it's it is certainly very concerning. And like just watching the landscape change, even since I started doing my show, and I mean, like that was only 4 years ago, right? Like that's not that long.
Mhm.
So it's wild. But I gotta go. So this has been fun. I'm glad we like recorded it, because we were chatting, and I don't know. I didn't know if we were gonna actually record. So I'm glad we did. I
How do
think
you move the needle? One bit at a time,
that's
every
right.
single day in your neighborhood or in your life.
How do you, same way you eat an elephant.
One bite at a time. You eat the whole thing in one day.
Yep. Very cool. All right. Well, that brings us to the end of our show. Greg, where can they find you?
You can find me on my Instagram, Greg Wycliffe, on YouTube, Greg Space Wycliffe. You can find me on TikTok and Twitter at GDub, GDDUB. Thanks for having me, Mark.
Nice. And you can find the other stuff that I do on CanadaPoly.com and all the other websites that I always promote, blah, blah, blah. Thanks for watching, everybody. And we'll catch you next time. Oh, I was going to do that one.